Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Commander Clash podcast, where the Commander Clash crew talks all things Commander. And this week, we're talking about some of the most undercosted bombs in the Commander format. But before we get to that, we got a crew to introduce, kicking things off with the Asian Avenger, probably better known as Grim. How's it going this morning, Grim?
It's going well, waking up just fine. But I'm really excited to go over this list of some of the bombs I use in my decks that are, I think are underrated and undercosted.
Yes. Undercosted, underrated. We also have another co-host in Phil, the Brewer's Kitchen. How's it going, Phil?
Hey, all. I've played against some of those cards in Vegas recently, and I can assure you they do way more than they cost.
I feel like that's what inspired this list, was Phil, like, getting beat by a card in Vegas, and they were like, hey, we should do a podcast about that. And then, of course, Budget Commander Tomer. This one seems right in your wheelhouse, Tomer. If anyone knows Budget Commander cards, I think it's probably you.
This is delight to do, actually. My only problem is that there's too many cards to mention, so I wanted to go for some spicy ones, some crowd pleasers, a little bit of a variety here.
That's a good way to do it. So before we get to our cards today, we got a couple sponsors. Our show's brought to you by Foil Armor. Do you have problems with your foils curling? Well, Foil Armor is the ultimate solution for flattening your foils. It's a two-way humidity pack that you simply put inside an airtight container with your cards, and Foil Armor will absorb and release moisture, making your cards completely flat. Put it back in your storage box to keep your cards flat forever, and you can head over to foilarmor.com and use the code MTGGoldfish to get 15% off. Our show's also brought to you by Card Conduit, the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. If you ever get tired of the hassles of buy listing, you can skip them with Card Conduit. You can use their curated service where you send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more, and pay just a 5% service fee. And if you want to do a bit of work, you can use their sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. Either way, you're going to get a detailed report with the results and a fast payment once your order is processed. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, it's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. And now it's time for the comment of the week. It's finally back. And last week, we were at MagicCon Vegas together, and we talked about the unwritten rules of Commander. And our top comment comes from David Sharp 5675, says, Seth looks like Gandalf addressing the hobbits. I don't know if you've seen the picture, but I am kind of like two of you all put together. The size difference is kind of hilarious.
Nothing makes me feel shorter in pictures than when I stand next to you.
Yeah. It was always funny when people were coming up to us in Vegas. They would come to get a signature, and they'd be like, "So where's the rest of the crew?" I'd be like, "They're in the command zone." I was like, "Oh yeah, I saw Seth." But I'm like, "Yeah, just go to Seth and around Seth. There will be another crew because Seth is like the beacon for the table group.
I'm easy to find, even in a MagicCon with 20,000 people. I'm pretty easy to find, I think. Anyway, let's talk some undercosted bobs. And Phil, you kind of pitched this idea, so let's kick things off with you. What's an undercosted bomb for Commander?
So literally the card that gave me the idea to do this is Breach the Multiverse. 7 mana, each player mills 10 cards, and then you can reanimate something from everybody. Turns out this one is kind of like $5 now, because when we played this, we talked about it like, oh, this one was super cheap. But you can just play Flotsam Jetsam. It's a Sultai split card, and we only care about Jetsam over here. It is 4 and then Dimir twice, so like 6 mana, but you can pay blue or black for it, but you gotta be in Sultai, sadly. Each player mills, sorry, this is a flip card, I gotta do this. Each player mills 3 cards. Not flip card, but split card. Each player mills 3 cards, then you may cast a spell from each opponent's graveyard without paying its mana cost. If a spell would be cast, it is exiled. It's kinda even crazier than Breach. It's like 6 mana, everybody mills 3, it doesn't enable as much, but a spell from each graveyard. Wait, each opponent's graveyard.
No,
okay,
not your own
graveyard. It's just
own.
opponent's graveyard. But my god, this is crazy for 6 mana. It's an uncommon. There are cheap cards on this list, but this is just 20 cents. So is the cheapest one. Oh my, crazy
this card
impact.
this card is incredible, and also I keep forgetting that it exists. So
Yeah.
thank you for reminding me.
The only
Seth played it on Clash,
it's
but
still
it's like
good. The
I feel
issue
like it would be more popular if it wasn't a split card. If it was just Jetsam,
yes.
I think people would be like, "Wow, this card's incredible." But you see a split card, and you're like, "I'm not going to read all that." And
The
then
other
you
side
pass
is
it, right?
mill 2 mana, instant speed, mill 3 cards, investigate. Triggers Caretaker's Talent, but then you gotta read 4 cards.
Yeah, not great, the 2 mana side. The only issue with the card is really just like being in 3 colors makes it hard to play. Like you need to be in like Sultai or 4 or 5 colors, so you can't put in as many decks. But this is a card that every time I have played it or seen someone play it, it seems so worth the 6 mana. Like you don't get your own graveyard, but any spell is kind of wild. In some ways, it is better than Breach the Multiverse because you're only getting creatures with Breach the Multiverse. This lets you cast whatever ends up being in the graveyard, an instant or a sorcery along with the other stuff. So I think the card for 20 cents is just like an absurdly good deal. Even better if you're some sort of Sultai graveyard deck. And what does Sultai do the most is graveyard. When I think of Sultai, I think of graveyard shenanigans. So I think like
you gotta
any Sultai deck can be playing it. Yeah,
it doesn't affect yours,
but
I guess. But
it's also
in practice,
6 mana though, so I feel like by the time you get there's probably been a Wrath or some stuff's traded off, or like I don't think you have to be a dedicated mill deck to make it work.
Yeah, also a problem with these effects is usually like, yes, it mills 3 cards, but then usually it's just a creature. So the chance of not hitting a creature in the 3 cards is pretty big. The chance of not hitting a spell in 3 cards is almost 0, especially if you hit every opponent. So you will get your values worth probably way more. Like if the opponent played, I don't know, something crazy, you're gonna get whatever they played, and then
Can you
I wish I played more
ordering on how you cast the spells? Like,
sure.
Can you say I want to have the board wipe resolve first, and then have two creatures enter the battlefield afterwards? So can you be like board wipe on top, and then creature?
Yep. So you do have to cast them all as the spells resolving. They're not like until the end of turn or something, but you get to choose what order you cast them. So yeah, you definitely can stack them. So the Wrath resolves first, and then the creatures resolve, or however you want to do it.
That's so good.
Do you ever play with this card, Krim?
This card seems sweet in like a Mothman deck, though. I will say that in mill, like this just seems like a good one. I mean, this and the Mardu one, the one that's like destroy a tapped creature and then 6 mana. You can return 2 creatures from a graveyard with haste, sack them at the end of the turn. Both of those, I think, are absurdly strong uncommons from Murders at Karlov Manor. I know the set was whack, like flavor-wise, but the one thing is I do think that from a like design and a card play standpoint, there's a lot of good cards there. And I think this uncommon is one of them. So yeah, this one obviously you get to keep the creature or whatever that you hit from their yard, whereas the other one is sacrifice, but the other one can close out the game immediately. So I love both of these cards, these split cards from Murders at Karlov Manor.
I think the other one is push pull, by the way.
Yeah, push
I think
pull.
that's the one you were thinking of.
Yeah,
I just made a note to add these cards to my decks because
so
forgetting they exist.
Just
so that's a good one.
EDH rec for Mothman, and I can't find it here. So
you
another
filter,
one of those.
But it's gonna be like.
Yeah, I feel like no one plays this card. Like, or not nearly as many people who should play the card are actually playing it. I think everyone just forgets about it. It's from like a not very popular set. It's a weird split card, so you got to crane your neck to read it on the website. And
then we got the numbers here.
Exists.
Out of 20,000 Mothman decks, only 460 play it. So it's pretty niche. So I guess it's a good point. If it wasn't a split card, people would be more inclined to read the second part and then notice that they should put it in their deck.
I mean, it also could just be because it's from Murders at Karlov Manor.
Oh,
and people just like genuinely forgot that set existed.
Forgettable set. Well, let's keep moving on. Krim, why don't you hit us up with an undercosted bomb?
Okay, so this one is an old classic, and I don't think I've ever gotten tired of casting it, and it's only 30 cents, right? I think Cruel Ultimatum still wins games. I think Cruel Ultimatum is just an absurd amount of value, gets you back at like the 5 life matters, because if you're 7 mana, you're not cheating this. This is blue, triple black, and red. Target opponent sacks a creature, discards 3 cards, then loses 5 life. You return a creature card from your graveyard to hand, draw 3 cards, then gain 5 life. That is still a very swingy spell. This being 30 cents means it's absurdly cheap, and you can jam it in almost any Grixis deck. I don't know. I know this bullies one person, but legit, it just gets you right back in the game, right? Like, unless you're like staring down a full-blown board assault, like this is gonna just absolutely demolish one person.
This probably
Well, I know you're
hermetic.
not doing that. You're not demolishing one person, because I know 100% you're putting this in Zevlor.
Oh, yeah.
You're making Myriad, and you're targeting everybody, you monster.
I mean,
Go
even
ahead, Seth.
no Zevlor included, right? Like, would you play this card alone? Because I still think this is, in a multiplayer format, I know it's not exactly the best to have something that just hoses one person, but this just is so good in so many levels. Like, the emotional aspect, the mental damage from this card is huge. The value you get, like, I would just play this generically. Like, there's only a few ultimatums I like in Commander, and this is one of them.
I just wish it reanimated the creature. It's a power level or power creep thing. Nowadays, it would surely reanimate.
Yeah.
Sure.
But and it would probably... Would it hit everybody? Because and then it's crazy.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, could we just get like a commander for the cruelest ultimatum or something, where it's essentially the same card but hit all of your opponents? Would that be too overpowered at like 7 mana with 7 colored pips? I'm not even sure that it would. Like, that's my only issue with Cruel Ultimatum, is it does kind of just get one person, but it still is a lot of value for you, right? You're essentially getting 4 cards in your hand and gaining 5 life, and you're wrecking one opponent. So I don't think it's bad. Personally, for me, it's not like a staple that I play in every Grixis deck. It does seem cute in Zevlar, though, but I do kind of wish it scaled more with the 4-player aspect of the table. I think if it was printed today, it would somehow like scale for the table a little bit more.
I think it would say, like, if you control a commander, you target each opponent or something like that.
Ooh, I like that.
So you
yeah.
think
that would
it's
be
bad in the current year?
No.
Because
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
If you say it's bad in the current year, the problem is that the next person who's getting Cruel Ultimatum, Commander Clash, is going to be you, right? Like,
Yeah, I know.
I love this card. This is
I
a
was
great
gonna
card.
be me anyway,
I respect
so
the Crim. Please
I'll
never
take the
target
heat.
me.
I mean,
I don't
like,
think it's bad, Crim. I don't think it's bad, but is it the best thing I could do with 7 mana in Grixis in 2025? Probably not. I think there's some level of nostalgia that makes it more fun, because it's like a card we remember from 20 years ago in Standard or whatever, in the Cruel control deck. But is it like actually optimal? Probably. I would say probably not, right? Like, do you really think it's the best thing you could play in that slot, or is it partly because you also just love the card too?
I think a lot of it is because I love the card. But I do think that if for 30 cents, I don't think it's like an embarrassing thing to play, right? Like, it's perfectly budget friendly.
It's super cheap.
On top of that, like, it really does hose one person, right? Like, which is sometimes what you need, right? Just a silver bullet for one player. And I know that 7 mana, you're expecting it to like be like hoof levels and all of that, but I think this is still a game ender for one person.
I will defend this card too. I don't think it's an auto include in Grixis decks, but any Spellslinger deck, I think this is a really great top end. I used to have long time ago a Jalevan Nephalia's Scourge deck, which is when an ETBs, you exile the top X cards of each player's library, and then when it attacks, you get to cast instant sorceries from the cards exiled for free. So that was like a great top end. But also, we played in the airport on the way back from Vegas. Me and Richard, we played against 33 Elk, which is another YouTuber, and he was playing Cormella, which is also Grixis Spellslinger, and that was definitely a top end. I don't know if they copied it or something, but
they copied
definitely
it twice.
Yeah,
so,
I think it's very, very good in Grixis Spellslinger. I think I would always jam it if I'm in Grixis Spellslinger.
And especially if you can have a commander like Jaliva, or even I think the uncommon one you mentioned makes mana, like anything to cast it for free or ramp into it, then the card gets even crazier for sure. Well, let's keep moving on. Tomer, what do you got as far as undercosted bombs?
Okay, I swear I have normal stuff coming up, but I wanted to start with spice, okay? Don't hate me. I think this card is actually... This card, when you cast it,
Fade away.
it almost always wins the game, and it's just hard to cast, okay? So it's Doomsday Excruciator.
Oh.
So it's 6 mana, but it's 6 mana with 6 black pips, so 6 black pips. Creature demon, 6/6 flying. When this creature enters, if it was cast, each player exiles all but the bottom 6 cards of their library face down. At the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card. So if you cast this from your hand, if you reanimate it, then it's just a 6/6 flyer that draws you a card each upkeep, like a Phyrexian Arena effect. That's already fantastic. But if you manage to hard cast this big 6-pip boy, you just ruin everybody's day. Everybody loses all but the bottom 6 cards, and then they have to figure out how to win the game before they deck themselves, including you, by the way. And you might even have a disadvantage, you could say, because you're drawing extra cards each turn. But I swear to you, I've seen this card casted, I think, 5 times so far in Commander. Every single time it was casted, it wins the game. Because
it wins, so it
your
ends.
opponents, I've seen the person who casts it win the game 5 out of 5 times. I swear to you. And the reason why is because your opponents, often in Commander, oftentimes are just like Dirtle decks, and they can't do anything without drawing cards. And even when they're drawing cards, they're just doing it to draw more cards. This says, hey, if you can't end the game, you're just going to deck yourselves. I'm sorry. This is like amazing to play like after a board wipe, especially so your opponents can't gang up on you and finish you off. But it's like even like it's 10 times better in like any sort of mill deck. You don't even have to be like heavy mill, by the way. Like if you're just like Captain Negathrod or anything that just like mills for value, your opponents for value, this card just becomes a game-winning card. I think it's like a slam dunk in like any Dimir deck, because you could have like, there's like at least 2 lands, like Drownyard, Nephalia Drownyard, and like Rising Reef or something like that. It's like a Dimir Lost Caverns of Ixalan manland.
Oh, Risen Reef. Oh, no. Rising, yeah. I think you're right. Rising Reef?
Something like that. I don't know. It attacks at mills a target. So you put those in the deck and you put this, you're just having a grand old time. And then the best new tech from Final Fantasy is Marlborough, which is like a 6-drop that swamp cycles, but when it ETBs, it makes your opponents discard, lose life, and then exile the top 3 cards of your library. So there's like a lot of things that if you just put this in your deck and you have like a little bit of mill, you just win just randomly, and your opponents, it's so easy. I swear to you.
I mean, if you have what's the thing that mills when you untap? Mesmeric Orb?
Mesmeric Orb, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Mesmeric Orb or something like that. Then it's like GG immediately. But oh my god, that is so true.
I play this. I play this already.
Oh,
I've been
know you
playing
do,
this.
Krim.
Was I one of the 5 times at least that this was casted in front of you? Because I feel like this card,
I think so,
one way or the other, just absolutely ends the game, and that's why I love this. So it's like
it does.
There's no, somebody's gonna win in about like 5 turns. Somebody's about to win. If it's not me, that's fine. But I left my mark, and
it's not me. That's for sure. I can't beat this.
I love this for those reasons, though, that Tomer had mentioned. Like, it does just, it's kind of like a super draw Punisher in some ways, because it's like if all you have is greed, then you will lose the game. So you have to make sure you can close out. And I really like this card. It just actually sets a clock, shortening the game of a commander.
Is this an acceptable card to play in casual Commander games? I sort of feel like if this card ever got popular, we would see it very high in the salt scale the next year. Like, I think the only reason it's not there is no one really, not except for Krim, really plays it at this point. But if this was ever like a Gray Merchant or something that you just played in every black deck, don't you think people would hate it? Because Commander players just hate feeling like they don't get to do their thing. And this is like, they hate mill. This is like the ultimate. It like mills almost your entire deck, but it's an exile, so you can't even get the cards back with a Eternal Witness or whatever. But I'm curious, like, can you just jam this in any black deck, or is it going to make your play group hate you?
I don't see why not. Like, what's wrong with this
I see
card?
why.
It's a win condition.
Yeah, it's a win con.
Yeah, is it? So I would love this for some reason because I like when a game ends, so we can start a new one, and then
Yeah.
it also turns the game into somewhat of a mini game. But then again, I
True.
play Commander every week, and I play a lot of Commander, and I like exciting stuff happening. I think this might be the nemesis of the people who hate Mill. It seems insane if you hate it.
But I don't want to live in a world where Mill is not acceptable in Commander. Like,
You already
it doesn't do
kind
anything to prevent you from playing the game, really. Like, the only time that
6
you feel
cards.
like you can't...
How am I going to
Yeah,
draw
okay.
cards, Tomer? How do
Yeah,
I?
it is-
How,
it
am
is
I going to
closed
play the
out.
game
I've-
if I'm not drawing
I've put-
6 cards
Hey,
a turn?
Yeah,
this is where you
I've
tap
had it
your
on-
wrist. Hey, clock guys, we gotta go.
Yeah.
I remember there was like the last time I saw it win the game was somebody dropped it. It wasn't me, but somebody dropped it against somebody who was playing Wylith, which is a Boros equipment deck. That basically whenever you attack, you draw a card for each equipment attached to Wylith, and it's like a Voltron deck, and he just couldn't attack. He just couldn't attack because he would draw too many cards and lose the game on the spot. So I thought that was hilarious.
I've definitely,
And then the Thalia Drownyard finished the table, by the way, which was amazing.
Wow.
I've definitely had that happen, but instead it's just like with the like those kind of enduring curiosity effects where like
Yeah.
too many if you
Oh,
attack
yeah.
Like
too
a
many
Biden or
creatures,
something. There's a
Yeah.
Toski on the table. And it's like, well,
you lose the
I
game.
could, I could kill you, but then I just decked
Like-
myself.
It's
Against
so
my minus
BM,
Kaga deck.
no blocks.
Yeah. This kind of
No.
means I can't cast anything in some of my decks. There's just so many triggers that just incidentally draw me the cards to kill me right away.
That's so. I
Yeesh.
think that's appropriate, though.
I'm
Like,
not sure.
Yeah, I would have named this card Tomer, but I'm happy that you did it because you picked another undercosted bomb. I love this card. Yes, it is 6
it
black
wins
by the way.
games.
It is 6
Or
black,
ends
so
games.
I don't know how people. Okay, mono
hard to
black can
cast.
do it, but actually,
Herbalord,
given
Coffers.
can do it.
Richard, I guess I'm always surprised that mono black cannot cast a mono
No,
black.
Richard.
spell.
Richard can do it in mono
Richard
black.
can.
yeah.
Richard
But the
can do
normal
it.
person, yes.
Yeah.
All right. So for my first pick for Undercosted Bob, I got kind of 2 cards, I guess, because they're kind of related. But these are cards that can literally put your entire deck into play for like 30 cents. Number 1 is Genesis Wave. Genesis Wave, triple green and X. Reveal the top X cards of your library. You can put any number of permanent cards with mana value X or less from among them on the battlefield. Then put all the cards revealed this way that weren't put in the battlefield into your graveyard. The other one's Villainous Wealth, which is essentially the same thing, except it's Sultai, and it steals from your opponent's deck. You don't get their lands, but you can cast any number of spells that you exile the same way. And these cards are incredibly powerful for their cost. Villainous Wealth obviously kind of has the Flotsam Jetsam problem where you got to be in Sultai for really to take advantage of it. But Genesis Wave, what do you think of when you think of green in Commander? Making lots of mana, right? Like that's green's whole gimmick is it's the ramp color, it's the mana dork color. So green's really good at making a lot of mana. They're usually permanent heavy because they care heavily about creatures. And then Genesis Wave is just a ridiculous finisher. I had a clash not that long ago where I resolved like a Genesis Wave X20 or something, and it's just it's so incredibly good. You get so much value, you have such a big turn. So it's kind of like a finisher. You can cast it earlier in the game for less mana as kind of a value card. But I think for 30 cents, like Genesis Wave is just ridiculously undercosted. And I think this is a card, I don't want to say literally every green deck, but I think you can play Genesis Wave in a pretty high percentage of green decks, and you're going to be able to get value out of it. But do you guys still play Genesis Wave? I feel like this is a old card that still kind of stands up even in 2025.
This
I
is definitely a
recently put it
relic of
in-
an older
Yeah.
Commander time because I think nowadays you get to do a lot of this for cheaper and
Yeah, you-
more efficiently.
Think so. But I played this in my Brawl Necrobloom deck on Arena and noticed that this is just perfect. So the deck is almost all permanents. They all trigger off each other if you get landfall. I create a bunch of mana. I put it in my deck. I'm going to cast it once. The table is going to scoop. I'm not going to resolve this. And then I'm going to put it out of the deck because there's no way I can resolve this myself if I cast this for X equals 10 or something.
I mean,
But
can't you
it's just an insane bomb.
can't you just Kamal's Druidic Vow? Right? It costs
No,
like,
that's just legendary.
Yeah,
I guess
that
you
only
get
gets
the lands, but-
legends.
but like I feel like that does
Also, I
the
don't care
job,
about the
right?
other mana. I can generate so much mana. I don't care which one is cheaper. I just need the
Any
chance to
version
do
of
this
it.
one. And Genesis Wave is just. I'm
I
never
mean-
gonna resolve this. If I hit 5 permanents and 5 lands with this,
It's a
my
classic,
brain is
so
gonna
so
explode.
I'm not
No, it is.
surprised that you would still jam this, right? Like this is just what you
It's
think of
similar-
every green deck in Commander was trying to do back then.
A similar one is like Great Aurora. It would
Yeah.
also work in my Necrolune deck. It's like you get.
I'm
It's a little different, but it's also not reasonable to resolve this with nowadays triggers.
Yeah, Great Aurora is kind of like a warp world, right? Like you shuffle everything
Yes.
in and then get some random
Like
stuff. So
everybody.
you do
I
lose
just
your
remember-
board to do it, but
I remember it being super bugged on MTGO as well, where
Yes.
like it wouldn't count
Yup.
the tokens
Yeah.
or whatever.
it would
No,
shuffle
it would
the
shuffle the
tokens
tokens
and you
from
draw
your
them.
deck.
Yeah.
And then you would draw them and they're like, put them on the battlefield and you can't.
Yep.
I was like, oh god. Oh, MTGO, good times. But Genesis Wave, I stopped playing this card and I'm looking back at it and I think I need to start running it again. I agree with Krim to an extent that like there's a lot of synergy cards these days that kind of like do the card advantage, mana advantage thing. But what I really like about Genesis Wave is that it doesn't require any setup to do its thing. Like this is like the best card to rip off the top if you're like a lane heavy deck, you're ramping a bunch, and you just got board wiped or something. You got nothing going on. Genesis Wave could take you from doing nothing to just being in a winning position or just outright winning the game immediately. You do have to be permanent heavy, but I feel like most of my green decks are permanent heavy. Like usually if I'm green, I'm usually like a creature based deck or a lanes based deck. Those are like the top 2 archetypes that I play in green. So I think that restriction isn't too bad. And like if you're just like mid game, late game, and you have like X equals 6, you dump 9 mana into this, I think that's already a ton of value. You just put 6 things onto the battlefield.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
And
Yeah.
getting all the lands is so wild. Like that
Mm.
really makes the card too. It's like a ramp spell too, where you get to
Untapped.
keep all the lands and they're even untapped. Like if you want to go deep, you can like cast it and hit an Eternal Witness to get it back to your hand and use your new lands to cast it again. And oh my god, I love Genesis Wave. It's
I'm
such
so
a sweet
excited,
card.
you guys. I'm putting all of these on my budget lists to add to decks,
They're
This
getting
is helping me the most.
because I remember Genesis Wave being like kind of worth something. Like so many of these cards are cards that like in the past,
Oh, yeah,
I
it
was like,
was
I thought they were
$10.
worth like a few bucks. I wouldn't consider them a budget card, but they've been reprinted
20
enough
cents.
times now that they're actually cheap, which is kind of cool. But let's go back to the top
Wait,
of the
similar card. It is similar enough to just reference it here, and it's not on the list. Doppelgang, also a card that just
Oh.
straight up wins
Oh.
the game
Oh.
with enough mana.
Mm.
It
Yep.
is 88
Disgusting.
cents. It plays
love-
like
Oh, that card's so
insane.
absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's oh my god, Doppelgang's like the best. Favorite card from last year. But let's get back to
Yeah.
the top of the list. Phil, what do we got? Another undercosted bomb.
All right, so we got another demon here. Oh, very demon heavy list here. It is the Speed Demon. 5 mana, 5/5, Flying Trample. Start your engines, which you already have started because of the lands, assuming you. Whatever, even if you don't. So at the beginning of your end step, you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is your speed. This is already a like Phyrexian Arena on a very beefy stick. So 5 mana, 5/5 Flying Trample does things. And then you hit with it once and it has Trample, and then you draw 2 cards. And then you draw 3 cards. You do lose life, but you're in black. You're gonna Grey Merchant or something. This just draw so many cards. It is crazy how efficient this is. And 5 mana, 5/5 Flying Trample at least makes it so you're not getting attacked by Richard's bird decks. That helps.
This reminds me so much of a card that I used to play a ton when I first started playing Commander, which is Graveborn Muse. I used to grab Graveborn Muse in like every black deck, and it's a 4-drop 3/3. The beginning of your upkeep, you draw X cards, lose X life for X number of zombies you control. Obviously, in a zombie deck, it can draw a ton of cards, but I would just jam it like a Phyrexian Arena or like a Bloodgift Demon. I don't know if you remember that one. Beginning of your upkeep, it's like a 5 mana 5/4 flyer. At the beginning of your upkeep, you draw 1 card and lose a life. I feel like this is just like the 2025 edition of these cards that I used to view as staples, drawing on your end step rather than your upkeep makes it so much stronger because you're almost guaranteed to get at least your first trigger out of it. When if you're drawing on your upkeep, it could die before it gets back around to you. And then it has potential to draw 3 or 4 cards as your speed increases, even if you're not playing a speed deck. So I feel like I gotta play more of this card. I always forget to put it in my decks, but it reminds me of a couple old cards that I really used to like. And I think this might be power crept enough to make it good in 2025, unlike Graveborn Muse or some of the other demons from the past that just don't really stand up anymore.
I think this card, it was the same game because Phil and I have been jamming speed in like every one of our decks.
Oh yeah.
And because we've been just playing with that, it led me to this naturally, right? And this card just runs away with games. I think we were playing that one game where I just had this and I kept it for more than a turn, and at that point it was like over, right? I drew so many cards. This is a closer for sure. This is a value engine that is absurdly cheap, at least in cost, and I think this should be swooped up immediately.
Also, if you buy it, I don't know if it's the German name is Karachodämon, which is like the widest name for that. I don't know. It doesn't make sense for our German viewers who knew why this is funny. You gotta get
like
the
all
German
the German names.
German cards are funny.
Just so good. Like the new Titus. But this card, I think, is actually the truth. I think drawing at end step is so much better than drawing upkeep. Even if it's just draw 1, like if you compare it to a Phyrexian Arena, if you take 2 turns, if you have 2 turns with a Phyrexian Arena on the Speed Demon on the battlefield, you've drawn double as many cards with the Speed Demon because you've drawn on your first turn and the second turn compared to a Phyrexian Arena. So I think like that's already so good. But if you just so happen to have like speed 2 or something, then it's already 10 times better. And it's pretty easy, right? Like if you play the speed demon and then you attack or you just drain or do anything, you go to speed 2, right?
Oh yeah.
And then you immediately draw 2 and lose 2 on your first end step, right?
Yep.
I think that's incredibly, like, you don't have to run other speed cards. I think that's incredibly easy to pull off. And even if you don't, if you just play this on an empty board or something, you'll immediately draw 1. So I think drawing 2 at end step is pretty reasonable. And then worst case is just draw 1. Like,
yeah,
insane.
It's really good. I'm gonna have to jam it in more decks. I just always forget about it. Let's keep moving on. Next up, Crim. Give us another underpriced bomb.
Okay, this is a 5 mana sorcery. That's I think also like another 30 cents or so. Fraying Omnipotence. I believe this card, I don't know if this is something that we all forgot about, but this is for 2019. It's got Bolus in the art.
I wonder why we forgot about it.
Each player loses half their life, then discards half their cards and the cards in their hand, and then sacrifices half the creatures they control, round up each time. For 5 mana, this is a super edict. You're now edicting the opponent's hands, right? You are edicting their hands, their health total, their board. This card is like actually like 30 cents though, and I cannot believe we aren't jamming more of this. This is so
all right, Turgid,
good.
Settle down there. Settle down, Turgid.
This
Come on.
is so good. I'm not talking Turgid. Obviously, that's nuts in Turgid, right? Because I don't even have a Turgid deck. I just play this card in a lot of decks that have black.
I honestly think Crim is just Nicol Bolas in like human disguise.
Manifestation.
Reincarnated, yeah.
He went Cruel Ultimatum into.
Okay, this does look a little biased.
Look at the art on both of those, by the way. It's like, oh, these cards are gas. Why don't we run more of it?
To be honest,
it doesn't.
We usually. Oh my god, we usually say that if everybody draws a card, that's card disadvantage for you because 3 cards are drawn from opponents and 1 is drawn by you. So I guess by that logic, that does put you in a lot of card advantage if we just do the reverse of this.
Yeah,
but I guess it should be good.
But
you're eating
up
a lot of
right?
stuff.
Sure,
yes, but you're eating off 3 times as much, just
right
technically, as you lose. So should we play this? I don't know.
I honestly think it's And I know I don't like these cards as much as the rest of you do, but I think it's kind of bad. Like, the problem is it always gets the worst half, right? Like, they just sack half their creatures. They sack the 3/1/1s, keep all their big bombs or whatever. Like, I feel like it's not as much value as it looks like when you read it. When you read it, it looks like it's doing a ton. But when you consider you're getting the worst cards from their hand, the worst creatures from their battlefield, for me, that just doesn't make me very excited to play it. But I don't know. Is that not a deal breaker for this card?
I know you don't like edicts.
So I already don't like edict. And this one's 5 mana, so it's a tough sell to get me on board with a edict anyway. Yeah.
But I know because of that, and anytime anybody has the option to choose what they want to sack, what they want to discard, that's one thing. But like, I think that just in general, that being able to eat up that many cards, like Phil had mentioned, is just too much value to say no to, right? Like, I'd be willing to pay 5 mana, half my life, all of that, if it means I get to chew up a good chunk of your cards. Because my play style is I love attritioning you, right? So if I can,
I know,
right? So because if I can attrition you out of the game, this means that like this helps me get there, right? Especially after you've drawn like 100 cards or something like that, and sure, you've now got your best cards sculpted into your hand, right? So now if I can eat half of your best cards, even if it's the weakest ones, this moves me that much closer to playing the 1-for-1 game.
So I'm kind of in between Seth and Krim here. I think this isn't a card that I would jam just willy-nilly, but I think this is kind of overlooked in Black Aristocrat stacks, which Black is like the main theme, the main archetype of Black. The most popular one is like sacrifice decks and stuff like that. So I would think like, for example, Phil's Jadar deck comes to mind, where you have like a bunch of creatures that most of them are just sacrifice fodder. They want to be sacrificed for value, and they're just sitting around, so you can sacrifice them to draw cards or make mana or whatever. And I think running that is actually not too bad, because the sacrifice part isn't too bad. And even the discard part, typically if you're in a black deck, typically in like a black deck, like you have a lot of good recursion options. So putting stuff in the graveyard isn't necessarily as bad in a black deck as it would be, for example, in like a red deck.
That's true.
You know, if I'm a red player, I don't want you discarding my cards. That kind of sucks. But if I'm in black, and I have like Rise of the Dark Realms or something in the deck, or Breach the Multiverse, as we mentioned earlier, Flotsam, those type of things, this kind of tees up for that. And then the sacrifice isn't too bad, and the life loss is whatever.
If there was an extended art, like the art is cooler. There's only one version of it. I could
no
get
border
convinced
foil. Phil
to-
hates it.
Yeah, no. If there's a cool version of this, I'm thinking about it again, because it is a good point that I have stuff to throw away, and then if everybody, so I'm gonna be hit least by the board state thing. I guess control decks are fine with it too.
I mean, it is like,
Interesting,
if you think of it as an X for one, the number is very high. Like, you are eating away a ton of your opponent's stuff compared to what you're losing. So I guess as far as like card advantage, it is kind of good.
Yeah, but it's like a rough. We don't say, oh yeah, but you have to rough your own stuff. Yeah, but you
well,
also
no,
rough
but it's like a
three
wrath
players.
that it's like with tragic arrogance or something. The wrath that leaves behind the one creature typically is the wrath I don't want to play because that one creature might get me. But
Yeah, they choose what they keep around. That's the only thing that I'm like,
yeah. Anyway, interesting choice for sure. Let's move on to the next one. Tomer, what's undercosted bomb?
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go for a generic one, because then I got spice afterwards. This one is a card that I think, basically, if you're in white, you should just run this card. It is Hour of Revelation. It's a 6 mana whiteboard wipe, but it has a lot of pips. It's 3 generic and triple white pips. It's a little bit white heavy. It's a sorcery that says this spell costs 3 less to cast. If there are 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield, destroy all non-land permanents. So this is a 6 mana sorcery board wipe that can usually, in a commander, be cast just for 3 mana, right? in a multiplayer game, having 10 or more non-land perms collectively with everybody at the table is pretty reliable by the time you actually do want to board wipe. Like if there's not that many, then typically you don't want to be wiping the board anyway. The thing I like about this is it hits all non-land permanents. So it deals not just with the creatures, but also deals with artifacts, enchantments. And that's really good. The flexibility is just really powerful because in Commander, often you're going to be up against creature-based decks, but sometimes, you're up against enchanters, you're up against artifacts, and you have a way to sweep them as well. So this handles everything. It hits you too, but the thing that I really like about this is it's a 3-mana board wipes. Typically, the most powerful board wipes, they cost like 5, sometimes 6 mana, like a farewell effect, and those usually eat up most of your turn. So like 6 farewell, fantastic card, but it requires your entire turn to do that. Even a Cyclonic Rift, like amazing card, but you're not casting anything else on that turn. You're usually like, I untap my mana, I go, and I'm going to play Cyc Rift on my opponent's end step. This one, however, you can usually just cast Hour Revelation for 3 mana, and if you're in the mid to late game, you can then deploy your threats immediately afterwards, and that's what I really like about it. So Hour Revelation, even if I'm like in a creature-heavy deck or something like that, I typically still run this card just because it gets rid of everything, and then I can immediately go from Hour Revelation into cast other spells, further my game plan. It also works very, very well with like all the white protection spells, by the way, because it is 3 mana. You could, for example, set up like a Faith's Reward turn or something after that. Like everything that dies immediately comes back, like a cosmic intervention type thing. Or you could give all your things indestructible with like, I don't know, Rootborn Defenses or something like that, and then wipe the board because it's so cheap. So yeah, I really like this card. 3 mana board wipes are just good.
I think our Revelation is like a staple level Wrath. The only place I don't play it is occasionally I run into decks that I'm built around kind of heavily around artifacts or enchantments. And I'm kind of like, I don't want to play it because I don't want to blow up all my non-creature permanents, and I could play a Wrath that only hits creatures. But outside of that scenario, which is admittedly a pretty niche scenario, I think you should just jam this in basically every white deck. And it's kind of wild that it's still under $1, like 75 cents. I think this is like literally one of the best Raz in the entire format, and it's so cheap.
It's less than 1% of all white decks, by the way, according to TD Track. So
it should be more.
0.97% of all white decks.
Is this has it been reprinted or something? Maybe it's just been reprinted on the ground.
I would.
Right?
That's my point.
It showed up in Zendikar Rising Commander, but that's the only reprint.
But that's the last time it's reprinted.
The art would look so cool. I play it in my Omnath deck, and I just have the regular version in foil. Oh man, extended art on this. But I use it to combo with Ashaya, which turns all your stuff, all your creatures into forests, so they are not non-land permanents anymore.
Oh, that's
so
hilarious.
Play
Wait,
Ashaya
did you make
into
a video around that? An arena video?
I did also make, I think, my first ever
I feel like
video
one of
on
your first
Goldfish
videos was about
this,
that.
yeah. But I play this combo in my Omnath deck still. I'm just very sad that there's no extended art on this. I know it's not gameplay related, but the art looks so cool. Maybe one day. And then please with
what
the
does
same
the
art.
control player thing?
I mean,
Bram, I need your approval.
I play this. I play this, right? Like it's good. It's 3 mana. It blows up everything. Like there's no way
Richard
you're not
plays
playing
this for sure.
Like it clean answers the whole board, and I know that everything gets indestructible or can phase out nowadays, but at 3 mana, I love that. However, there is one thing that has been contesting this, and maybe this is an honorable mention because this is where my deck has been alternating between this card and Split Up. I've been playing Split Up a lot. Just because I know this Split Up doesn't answer all the permanents, but Split Up usually works out to where you destroy all the creatures your opponents have that matters, and you turn it into a one-sided board wipe. And so when I build around my board wipes, I try my best to get it to be in the like as one-sided as possible, right? Obviously, Farewell, that's an emergency big red button. You got to have that. But so example, like I think we've seen me a few times this season play just Split Up, and it's to clean all the things that matter off the board. That I think might be better than blowing up all things. Just because that I don't want to lose my board either. So this is because I treat Hour of Revelation also like a 3-drop board wipe. So it's like, okay, Split Up is actually kind of that and one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I still love Hour of Revelation though.
I feel like Split Up's okay. Do you guys play Split Up a lot? I'm kind of like, I think it can be good, but I don't really view it as super similar to Hour of Revelation. I feel like Hour of Revelation is more like budget Farewell almost,
Sure.
and then Split Up's like a twist on Wrath of God, sort of. Just like the fact that it only hits creatures, I think is the biggest thing I see as a difference as far as the rolls index. I do think Split Up's very good, especially if you're a creature heavy deck. I think the more controlling you are, the less value Split Up has, because you might not have a lot of creatures anyway, so you might as well play a real Wrath. But in creature decks, you can get a lot of value out of Split Up by taking advantage of like only getting the untapped or tapped creatures.
I just remember in Commander Clash getting annihilated by Split Up. I was playing B-Tour. I just set up the perfect turn. Split Up took out my entire board state, and then you freaking screaming nemesis me out of the game after that. It was so close to glory.
If it makes you okay, I know that's a painful memory, but I think Split Up is just generically solid as well. I think even in a control deck, you have permanents that you want to keep. Right? Like there's many things that I still want to keep as setup to get to the late game, and it does feel bad that I have to blow it up, right? So
I think
I agree that this is a very good blow up everything kind of board wipe, but again, I have recently figured out that in control decks, the problematic permanents are usually 1 or 2. Right? It's a nice value play to pick up every enchantment and artifact, but it's 1 or 2 things. So if I can just answer that and keep all my creatures or all my things, I will usually try to build towards that. So as I love Hour of Revelation is the whole point, but I'm trying out some other things in its place right now.
2 points. The first quick point is I think Hour might be the best board wipe to have in your opening hand, because then you could just be like, I'm not gonna put anything on the board. I'm gonna wait until like turn 4, bam, and then everything's gone and then I deploy, which is really cool. But then the second thing is, actually maybe I'll pitch this as my last card, because there's one card that is similar to Split Up that I'm actually like super super deep into now.
Ooh.
I like a whole bunch.
Are you gonna hold on to it for your final pick?
No, I was just saying now. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Calamity of Cinders. It's a 7-mana red sorcery with Convoke, so your creatures can help cast a spell. You can tap them to pay for 1 or one of them the creature's color. So if you have 7 creatures, you can just cast it for 0 mana and tap them down, and then deal 6 damage to each untapped creature. So it doesn't kill everything. It only hits untapped creatures, so it's gonna miss some of your opponent's stuff. But the real beauty of this is that if you're in a go wide deck, you could just tap down all your creatures, cast this for 0 mana, and then because your creatures paid for the Convoke cost, they're tapped down, so they won't take any damage, and it's a one-sided wipe every single time. It won't hit everything, just like Split Up won't hit everything, but it's like a 0 mana Wrath, and every go wide deck, I've just slammed it, and it's a 17-cent card. I've never seen anybody else cast it, but I put it in like Seth's Norn deck, and I hope I don't know if you cast it yet.
I've not drawn it yet, but it does. It seems interesting to me. I like that it's one-sided. Only 6 damage, I guess. Like that's a downside, although. We're red, right? So we don't get hard wraths in red anyway. Every red sweeper kind of has the downside that it's damage based, so you might not get everything. The only thing I would say that I dislike about it, it's really good at helping you close out the game when you're building a board. A little bit less good if you don't have a board going on, because if you got to full price it without convoking, it's not as good.
Yeah.
But if you can get a few creatures on the board and your deck's consistently good at doing that, it's a great way to like have a almost one-sided Wrath and then force through a bunch of damage the next turn or whatever. All right, let's move on to my next pick. And I kind of cheated a little bit because this is kind of almost a cycle of cards rather than just one card. But I feel like these cards are super legit bombs. They're like 15 years old now. A lot of people forgot about them, but they still hold up even in 2025. And that's the Primordial cycle. So everyone knows Sylvan Primordial because it's banned in Commander. But the rest of this cycle, especially I would say the blue and the black ones, are really good. The blue Primordial, these are all 7-drop creatures. The blue one is Diluvian Primordial, a 7-mana 5/5 flying. When it enters, for each opponent, you can cast one target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard without paying its mana cost, and then those spells go to exile if you cast them. The black one, same mana cost for a 5/4 Intimidate. When it enters, you reanimate a creature from each opponent's graveyard. And then the red one actually is not bad either. 7 mana, and it threatens a creature from each opponent. You steal until end of turn, it gets haste, you get to smash your opponent. I will say, every time I've seen the blue Primordial,
The white one is not. It's
the
worth
white one I
referencing
don't really
as well.
like. I'm
Oh,
kind of,
really?
yeah, I left that one.
Sword
out.
White one does.
Plowshares.
The white one swords
It's
to
swords to
plowshares
plowshares
for
for
each
each
opponent,
opponent. Oh, blink.
which is still
No, it's
fine
crazy.
in like a
It's like
blink
fine.
deck. But honestly, the white one's the one that I play the least by far. The black and blue ones are the ones I play the most. The blue one, every time I see it, it feels like it's between really good and game winning. Because it's a late game card. Yes, especially if you're milling or filling graveyards, but even naturally, usually someone's going to have a Key Wrath in the graveyard or an extra turn spell, some big bomb that you can get. And then the black one, we were talking a little bit about Breach the Multiverse and how that kind of crept up in price a little bit in Flotsam and Jetsam. The black Primordial is still 30 cents. You reanimate a creature from each opponent's graveyard, and you get a 5/4 left behind. It's almost like an even more budget-friendly Breach the Multiverse. You don't get the milling, and you don't get a creature from your graveyard, but for 30 cents, it's still really good. So I'm curious what you guys think about the Primordials, because I feel like a lot of creatures from like 15 years ago don't really still stand up today, but I feel like this cycle in specific is one of the cycles that's actually still really good and really cheap, even today in 2025.
So I believe you know how like we've always talked about it's so good that it's bad, right?
Oh, come
So
on.
at one point,
Oh.
these cards were the cards that I would cut because they were too good because they're
They were
bad.
too-
But now they're so bad that they're good. So because they fell off the radar, they stopped being as powerful and sought after, and like there's so many better and flashier things you could do at 7 mana now, right?
Yep.
So because of that, this is like Phyrexian Arena, where I'm in the camp that believes that like Arena's back in because it's so low on the power like pole that no one cares that you draw an extra card. Whereas like early EDH, everybody just had to blow you up because you had an Arena. I think this is in the same vein now. These Primordials are just so not as flashy as everything else you're doing in 2025 that they're back on the menu because they just fly under the radar to where they do not pull enough aggro. Except for maybe Sepulchral. That one might be the only one that could still pull enough aggro, but I find that I still play Molten Primordial, and that does the job.
That's my
That
favorite
card
of
still
the
does
bunch.
the job.
So I think the fact that they all have the main draw of all these is just the ETB kind of makes them so good. Is like, yeah, they could draw hates, but like if they die, it's like whatever. I already got my value out of
yeah.
it. They're all like 7. They're all 7 mana, right? Like all of
I
them.
believe they're all
Yeah.
7.
So, like,
yeah.
I think they're like 7 mana is just a lot of mana these days. Like you want to win the game if you're casting a 7-drop, but like they're all creatures. So like especially if you're like in black, you could reanimate all these.
Yep.
If you're in red, you can sneak them out like Henzi or whatever. My favorite is still the Molten Primordial. Like I will actually just hard cast this as a miniature insurrection. The reason why I like it so much is because it's a 6/4. The body is a 6/4 of haste. So you threaten 3 creatures, up to 3 creatures, 1 for each of opponents, but then you also get to swing in for 6 damage with itself. And I like also the fact that it removes blockers too. So like you could you're just taking from everybody, so there's less blocking potential, and the creature itself is swinging in for 6. So I usually, by the time I cast this, somebody dies. It's like a miniature insurrection, and then it's like Omega level good in like any sneak attack deck, and it's extra good if you're like in a fling deck or a sacrifice deck. Like I had a Cardor deck that just has a lot of sack outlets, so yoink yoink yoink, everything is never given back if your opponent
Hey,
survive.
by the way, if you want to destroy something for everybody, you can just have no other cards and just play the white one. It paths or like it sorts a creature from everybody.
Boring.
it just does this. By the way, I
then they gain
like this one.
They didn't need
I'm
to gain
not
life.
sure
I think that's
okay. Okay.
Why did it have to gain life afterwards? It should have just been exiled straight up.
The white
Wow,
one's
no.
like not horrible, but I don't play that one anymore.
and
The other
3 for 1
three, I
exile?
still
my God.
play.
I gotta
But
play more
it's not a
blink decks.
3-for-1 because the life gain is sometimes big enough to where that's cards, right? So
No,
it-
wait. What about swords?
All
Graham?
right,
What about
guys.
swords?
well, okay. Why is swords good? Swords is good because it's 1 mana. It is
Oh.
1 mana.
Okay,
At
Yeah.
instant
Yeah,
speed.
but
Yeah,
if you argue
yeah.
that sword sucks because your opponent gains life,
No.
No. Swords is great, but it's like if one of them is threaten, one of them, the green one is the most busted one. It's like
Yeah.
blow up anything and then
Yeah.
also ramp. I
Sure.
don't even know what that
Every
was
player.
supposed
it's
to be.
ridiculous.
But it's not a 1 mana spell. And then the black one is reanimate, but you don't lose life.
Yep.
So that's more than a 1 mana spell. It's animate death, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
All of them are like the effect is more than 1 mana, and then the white one is just a one
That
one
is
mana
true.
spell. It's
That is
like,
true.
That's
where's
kind of
You've
the
spent 3
where's the
mana
concert?
and with essentially you've gotten 3 mana in value, right? Because 3 swords
Yeah.
and then you got a
Okay,
body.
that is
so-
a good point. Yeah.
It is blinkable
Yeah.
though. Like if you're blink
It is
deck,
very
it's still okay. I think this was
You
in
should have
my
gained the
original
life.
Brago deck that you gave me, Tomer, like 7 years ago now or whatever. I'm pretty sure this
I
was in the
apologize to
Brago
your
deck.
opponents.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that was 7
you should have
years
gained the
ago.
life, but whatever.
Oh yeah, if you gain the life, it'd be really good. But don't sleep on the Primordials. They're really cheap. I think a lot of people forgot that they existed because they just see the shiny new bombs and 7 drops.
Mhm.
But at least the red one, the blue one, and the black one are still pretty good cards. But
Mhm,
let's
mhm.
do one last time around the table. We're going a little long, but we'll make it work. Let's kick things off
Lightning
again
round.
with Phil.
All right, I got a classic here, but it's just $1.50, and it's we don't need to talk about this too much, but I got it. It fits here so well. It's Blatant Thievery, 7 mana, a lot of 7 drops on here. For each opponent, gain control of target permanent that player controls. It just steals every commander, and that it just wins the game. People just scoop, or they want to scoop. You can offer them. You could just end this here.
It went
It's-
down in price.
Yeah, it's
I
so
remember this
brutal.
card being expensive.
Yeah, I actually cut it from one of my decks because it's just so brutal, and
It's
it
your
feels a
signature
little
spell, though,
bad.
now,
I
or
know
at least your
it's still in.
OG.
Okay, so it's still in Omnath, and there's still like
Yeah.
a way to triple cast it, and I'm not feeling bad about
Good.
this in this one. But in my Maelstrom Wanderer deck, I play this for fun, and this is just very one-sided fun. That's it this way.
I remember when Phil joined us, he played
Oh,
it so
the
much
first
that I
time.
just added Homeward Path to every single deck of mine.
Yep.
And
that
even
was the-
in my red decks was Brand, which is like you just return all permanents you own, but you can cycle it away if Phil's not on blue. So I was like,
Yeah, I had
good times.
a phase with this.
Yeah,
I mean, the
Blink-
card is sweet. I still
So good.
love this thing.
Yeah.
It holds such a sweet spot for me because it's also from Onslaught, so I have my
yeah.
Onslaught foil.
I
Like
got
this
a foil
is
as
a
well.
Foil?
yeah. This card's
It's
like
How many
not too
kidneys did you
expensive,
sell?
actually.
it's like $30
Actually-
or something still, but
Yeah,
I
like 30 bucks.
That's not that bad.
this card is just an all-time like great late game spell for blue mages, right? It doesn't win the game, but it emotionally does the same deal that I like about Cruel Ultimatum, right? It's
Your
7
opponents
mana.
want to concede.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas only you are taking the best permanent from each player's board. Usually, in reality, like though I will say that this card, as much as I love this, it is just stealing one thing that matters. And then sometimes others will have a few things, but like there's one that a clear cut
It
good
matters
card
to you.
that matters.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it matters to the at turn 7 you played something that matters to you. So
Yeah,
your
lose-
opponents are always going to be salty. It's
Losing your
Mhm.
best
Just that
card
bad.
usually sucks, no matter how good or bad that card is, unless you have like no board. It's also like kind of a good rate,
you can
right?
also
Like
steal lands.
it
like, if
can
you
steal-
play
it
a
steals
steal,
money
Gaia's
per
Cradle.
net.
Permanent
Still
effect.
pretty good.
Yeah.
But
And
think
really,
about it like
it's
this:
Blue ramp.
Agent of Treachery is a much more is the same mana cost. Steals only one thing, right? But
Yeah.
but it being a creature is a bigger upside than Blatant Thievery.
Yeah.
So
That's
I've
true.
stopped playing Blatant Thievery and I've just put Agent of Treachery. And
It's a blink target, right?
yeah, it's a blink
It's-
target.
yeah.
It's a
You can blink.
Once you
reanimated
start
target,
blinking it.
self-bounce. You can do a lot more with that than, like, not saying you can't. Obviously, Snapcaster, all these things. There's lots of things you could do there. But I personally like that Agent of Treachery can also draw me 3 cards, which seems unlikely. I'm not talking about in a theft deck. Obviously, in a theft deck, it's amazing. But more often than not, you could do a lot of stuff with Agent of Treachery and maybe even
What
trigger
is-
that draw.
Agent of
Mm.
Treachery, 555 though. So
Mm.
Oh,
Little
never mind.
pricey.
Agent of
That's,
Treachery
out of
is
my
way
budget
more
range.
expensive now. Okay, never mind.
And Blatant Thievery, like, yeah, I would say Agent
Yeah.
of Treachery in a lot of decks is better because it's a creature, but Blatant Thievery, I think, is still pretty good. Like, stealing the best 3 things for 7 mana seems like a pretty good rate to me, so I'm still on the Blatant Thievery train if you're a mono blue deck. Plus, blue's bad at removal, and I know this isn't great removal, but it still, like, gives you a way to remove something.
it's
if
crazy
it's
removal,
nice.
right?
Yeah, it's just
Unless you
expensive.
steal a
Like, it's not
resting
going to do
piece
the
or
like,
something.
sword save you early in the game, but still, yeah, like, it's really strong removal once you get the mana. Well, let's move on. Crim, what's your last pick for an undercosted bomb?
I think my last pick for an undercosted bomb might be. Oh, this is a tough one because, all right, it's not going to be Bolas related, but I'm deciding
Mhm.
between 2. You know what? I'll just put Dreamborn Muse. This card is still a house to me. Everybody talks about Seedborn Muse, all the muses, right? But people kind of forgot about Dreamborn Muse. Yes, it's a 4-mana 2/2, but at the beginning
Oh
of
my
each
god,
player's
it's a mill
upkeep,
card.
that player puts the top X card
Oh,
in his or
come
her
on.
library into their graveyard, where
Come
X
on,
is the
Chris.
number of cards in their hand. I know this hits me, but, like, at the same time, this card is a house, right? Like, especially when you've got players nowadays like Seth, Phil. These 2 are always like, I've got Reliquary Tower. I'm gonna just keep playing, like, draw spells. I love this card. I think this card is a house. It will close out games. It will mill very quickly because
Yep.
it triggers on each player's upkeep, not like, your upkeep. So it has to happen before it gets to their turn.
I mean, this card definitely will kill me. I will give you that. Like, I have a lot of cards in hand usually, so I probably will die to it. I still don't know if that means it's a good card necessarily. And
Is
it's
it
also
'cause it's
apparently like
mill?
$4 or $5. So it is kind of like just narrow, right? Like if you're honestly, I don't know if I'd play this in a mill deck. Would I play this in a mill deck? Would you all play this? And I know Crim would because he loves it. Like, let's say you're playing a mill deck. Is Dreamborn Muse good enough to put in your mill deck in 2025?
Yes.
I guess. Yeah,
Oh my God,
probably.
yes.
You want
Crim
to
is
beat it
Crim
for
is the mill.
Crim is the mill
expert,
man,
so I will
yeah.
reluctantly
All
defer
right.
to him.
All right.
If you
I'm
ask
not
me-
sold, but
Yeah.
it will kill me.
It
I will give it
looks
that. for sure.
unplayable.
Okay. You know what? There's a bunch of mill haters, so I'll try to sell you on something that's easier. Just it's kind of cheating because I'm getting both my cards, but I think this
Sure.
one's very straightforward. I don't got to explain it too much. It's the Unstoppable Slasher from Duskmourn.
Mm.
3 mana,
Yeah.
hard to kill, 2/3 death touch. When it deals damage to a player, they lose half their life, rounded up. So you'll deal your 2, and then they'll lose half, rounded up.
I would have made fun of you a week ago, but then I went to MagicCon Vegas and someone absolutely dominated me with this card. They played it on turn 3 and I had to chump block it at like 3 turns in a row and give up my best creatures. And then they finally hit me with it anyway. And it just totally took over the game. So at this point, I'm sold. Unstoppable Slasher seems absolutely busted in Commander to me.
Like, is this card
That's
not
good.
nasty? Just
I got
absolutely
killed by it,
nasty.
so yeah.
I have learned from experience. Yes, it is. It is really nasty. Like, I was at 40, and I was like, if I take a hit from this 3-drop, I'm going to be at 18. 18 from this silly 2/3. Like, that, no. Like, it should not work that way.
It if anything, you know what's funny is like we had the Final Fantasy set with the Tonberry. This actually feels like what a Tonberry is. Right? Like when you think about like
Yeah.
it coming in and maybe not player death touch, but having somebody's life is very real. And this being so hard to remove makes me really enjoy this card. Like, this is where Richard not having a swords is gonna hurt, right? Like, if you gotta have an exile effect, you gotta blink, you gotta do something. It doesn't read like much, but The main thing is it's 3 mana. It is 3 mana.
Mhm.
And it has Death Touch, so it gets around the, like... Because Richard's plan's going to be like, I'm going to just play like a Wall of Omens or something. So I got this body that soaks up all the early attacks. But this even gets through that, right? You block it once and it's going to die because of Death Touch. It just seems so good to me. Like, I didn't think of this as a commander card, and now I'm sold that this card's like a busted commander card. Well, let's keep moving on. Good pick, good pick. Tomer, what do you have for your final pick today?
I'm actually agonizing. There's so many good ones.
Tomer's list is very long. He has like 20 cards
It's
on
very
his
long.
list. Yeah,
There's so many cards. I'll say like, okay, there's one. Okay, I have to do this one because it's like the hot take moment. I don't know if you guys will agree with me. I think you won't agree with me, but that's gonna be more fun. So comment section, let me know. So I was gonna mention Ascent from Avernus, Mana Geyser. Wow, Mana Geyser. Very interesting, but it's like only like $1.50, which is ridiculous. Mystics of Mastery, Invoke Calamity is a spicy one, but I got the spiciest one, and this is actually like a preview of my next video. It's the Uno Reverse cards, which has been delayed, but it's coming out, I swear. This is not even on the list, so surprise for my coworkers. Runeflare Trap. Runeflare Trap is a 6 mana red instant trap. But it got 6 mana. That's a lot of mana. But it says if an opponent drew 3 or more cards this turn, you may pay 1 red mana rather than pay its mana cost. So it can either cost 6 or just 1 if an opponent drew 3 or more cards. And then it deals damage to target player equal to the number of cards in that player's hand. So we all know that Commander is going more and more into card draw, ramp, card draw, ramp, card draw, ramp. Everybody's drawing silly amounts of cards, Reliquary Tower galore, especially our group. Our group, the number one card played is like Reliquary Tower, just so they can hold all the cards in their hand. And Runeflare Trap says, hey, I'm not going to stop you from drawing cards, okay? I'm actually going to encourage you to do this. You know, I'm not going to be the mean Notion Thief player. I'm not narsetting you or anything. Draw all the cards you want. But then eventually, when your life total is at low, you know, like you're at 15 life or something like that, and then you're going like to cast your Seagate Restoration, and you have 30 cards in hand, for 1 mana, I'm just going to kill you. You just die. That's it. You die. And the other nice thing about this card is that red, especially if you're a Spellslinger, this is like absolutely insane, because red, one of the best cards in red, in my opinion, are fork spells, like things that you can like copy your unexpected windfalls and stuff like that, turning your card filtering into actual card draw and turning stuff into ramp and stuff. These pair very well with Runeflare Trap, because like if you copy Runeflare Trap like 1 time, even if they're at a high life total, you know, like they're at like 30 or something like that, and they have like 12 cards in, or I guess 15 cards in hand, you copy it once and they just die. It's insane amounts of damage just out of the bat, and nobody's expecting it. It's 22 cents. Nobody runs this card. I'm jamming it in all my red decks though, and can't wait to show you their power. What do you guys think though? This is a hot one.
I have this card in German still.
What's the German word for it? That's exciting.
I forgot. It's pretty great.
Flackerunfall,
I think.
Flackerunfall.
Yeah.
How do you say it?
Okay. Flackerunfalle. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Falle.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Bill. See, there we go. But
it's exciting.
Okay. For the same reason that you love this card, right? I guess this card isn't budget anymore, but it could be in the same deck.
Yeah.
Is Sword of War and Peace back? Because of
God.
how many people, how many cards are in hand? Being able to connect and then deal the damage and then gaining life, it kind of gives you this as well, right? So if you know that your pod has tons of people who just like to sit back, durdle, and draw tons of cards, now you have numerous ways to punish their hand size, right? And then on top of that, Sword of War and Peace, or Shield of War and Peace, your preference, one, if that, that gets you even more value, right? Because you're continuously clocking, dealing more damage, because everything draws cards. If we're at the point now where card advantage is we're looking at Runeflare Trap, then we might want to start playing more like more punishers, right? And I think Sword of War and Peace is that.
I get what you're saying, but the thing I like about Runeflare Trap so much is that it's just instant speed, 1 mana, gotcha,
Sure.
you die.
But you do
So,
both.
I mean, the other one, it's good for more incremental value. It's 5 mana, you have to hit somebody, but then if you have it sticking around, you can continually hit people. It gives the creature evasion too. But Runeflare Trap, what I really like about it is just like,
The gotcha.
well, I just have to have 1 mana up. You Seagate a Restoration, or you're drawing half your deck, and you're popping up. You're having your pop off turn. You're comboing even. I could just be like, nah, you die. GG. It's over.
The one concern I have with traps is like the clause to hit this. In the current year, there's lots of things that draw cards in like, you know, by nature, but like there's also a lot of things that put cards into hand. Exile the top
True.
of the deck. So my concern is that this is 6 mana otherwise. So
Yes.
I kind of view it the same, right? Like it is
True.
matter of fact, Sword of War and Peace might be 1 mana cheaper in most situations. And
I got you, Krim. I
Okay.
have something that you might like way more, because I run this in the same decks, and I love it too, but it's also far funnier. Cerebral Vortex, 3 mana
Oh,
is an
yeah.
instant. Target player draws 2 cards, then it deals damage equal to the number of cards they've drawn this turn. So this is like a flexible, I use it early game, I'll just crack it. I'll pay 3 mana, draw like Divination, lose 2 life. I don't care about losing 2 life to draw 2. So it replaces itself, whatever. It's never a dead card. And then when your opponent goes Seagate Restoration or something, you're like, actually, you die now.
I like that.
GG.
I remember
It
you
doesn't
tried to do
number
that
cards in
one
hand,
episode we
but
did for Clash. So I remember you playing
we
this
tried.
But
We
like,
tried.
yeah,
But these are another ones that, like, if you fork it, it just,
yeah.
oh my god. If you have any forks or anything, it just insta kills people.
I like Cerebral Vortex more than Runeflare Trap.
It's $1.
Cerebral Vortex, though, you got to leave a lot of mana up if you want to get someone,
3.
right? Like you're not
Yeah.
going to get the 1 mana gotcha. I feel like they all are going to kill me when it comes down to it. I feel like I'm the target of this
Yay.
podcast, because this is just kill the player who draws the cards. But I do think Runeflare Trap, like the theory of it makes sense. I haven't tried it in Commander, so I don't know like how consistently it'll happen, but it seems like it's going to be absolutely hilarious when you kill me with it, and you will eventually kill me with it.
So Seth, you draw cards, but like Phil puts tons of cards in hand, reoccurs things, like truly just when his engine goes online, he has so many cards, right? So
Yeah.
and a lot of it gets around the draw clause. So that's where I think, like, I'm going to try it more often because I think Sword of War and Peace is so back.
Like
Like,
that
it was,
also
Oh my
requires you
God.
getting in again. Like, think if Phil's board has 6 janky engine creatures, like, what are the odds that you actually get in the attack? When at least like Runeflare goes directly face. So I think there's like upsides and downsides to both
yeah,
plans,
you're right.
probably.
You're right.
But if you can get in the hit with it, I
I'm-
mean, I remember a game not that long ago. Well, actually, maybe it was like a year ago now. But wasn't there a game where you had a sort of War and Peace, and it was just like doming people for 12 or something? Like, I feel like
Well,
you
Captain
got
America
with
is
it.
I think it was
before.
my cat.
Yeah.
It's a sword
Surely.
cycle, not a swords and a shield cycle. Oh, I hate it.
Say what you
No.
will, but Cap uses that sword like a shield, or that shield like a sword. So,
That's true.
because that's an
I-
offensive shield, which is crazy. Look, I got it in the background. I know what's up. But I think, yeah, you're right, Seth. Like that game, that was great, and that was Cap, but that's just Cap, right? Cap can just
Yeah.
do that. But I think generically, I want to try Sword of War and Peace because everything that Tomer brought up, I agree with why you want to put the trap in your deck. The card itself, maybe not, but I agree. Like I like
Mhm.
Cerebral Vortex way more for that exact situation.
It's flexible. They're both in all my decks, so I just can't wait to see it in Commander Clash. Draw your cards, my friends. Draw your cards. I'm not stopping you.
All right. I have one last pick, and this is a good one. I just realized this card because I think of this card as being really expensive. So one thing we talk about in Commander is the 2 most powerful things you can do, card advantage and mana advantage. And one of the strongest ways you can generate mana advantage is just by doubling your mana. We've seen some ridiculous games involving like Nyx Bloom Ancient, for example, which triples your mana and just lets crazy things happen. The problem is mana doubling effects either are really bad, like doubling your opponent's mana too, which makes them very risky, or if they're only doubling your mana, they tend to be really expensive. But a card that used to be $60 a couple of years ago is now down to $2, and that card is Mana Reflection. Mana Reflection, for 6 mana, just says if you tap a permanent for mana, it produces twice that much mana instead. So if you tap a land, if you tap a Mana Rock, if you tap a Mana Dork, this is going to double the mana. This was a card that used to be incredibly expensive, but it was reprinted in Modern Horizons 3 Commander and in Double Masters, and now it's down to $2. And I think that this is a card that I would play in a lot of decks, not because it's the best version of the effect, which I think is Nyx Bloom Ancient or Mirari's Rachel. There's a few different versions of it, but I think this is the only one that is actually budget friendly enough that you can legitimately double your mana for $2. So I think if we're looking at how powerful the effect is compared to the price of the card, considering that the other versions of this effect are so expensive, I think Mana Reflection deserves to be on our list today. But I'm curious what you guys think about Mana Reflection. Is it an underpriced bomb?
So good it's bad. I'm so sorry.
Oh my god.
It's like the thing is like you play 6 mana, you drop this, and you don't do anything with it. Then your opponents are like, "Well, we need to kill this, right? You can't untap with this. That's ridiculous."
Yeah, that's kind of true.
I mean, sometimes you'll get away with it, and then it will be glorious.
Oh, when
It's
you
like
get away
the
with
doubling
it.
season issue.
It's so good when you get away with it, though.
Know.
And if you get up to like 12 mana, it's kind of free because you play it and it doubles your 6 untapped mana, and then you can immediately. So I know 12 is a huge number. Not as
like if you're at 12
deck,
mana, then you don't need this anymore. You're fine.
But 24 mana is even better than 12, Tomer.
That's true.
The math told me.
Isn't Mirari's Wake like $4?
Mirari's Wake is like 6 or 7. I consider that one as well, but like
it's also a 5-drop, I think.
It is a 5-drop and it's in 2 colors. And it gives your creatures +1/+1s, but it only doubles your land mana, I believe.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So it depends on like the price. Like, so yes, Mirari's Wake was actually the first card that I looked at when I was thinking about mana doublers, and I was like, $6, that's a little steep. But Mana Reflection, only $2. How do you feel about this effect, Phil? You like doing big value-y things. Do you do mana doubling things?
As much as I hate to say it, I do kind of agree that you're kind of telling the table to kill you.
That is true. That is true.
I mean, I'm known for doing this, but yeah, the kind of telegraph a crazy turn. Open the
Open the Way is like also expensive ramp that sets you for the future turns. Would you run both of these in the same deck, or?
Yes,
I mean, I run
for sure.
Yeah, it synergizes. Oh my god, that's
I
guess it synergizes.
I'm gonna play this card more. I kind of forgot that it was so cheap now. It's a card that I just was used to not thinking about because I knew it was like $50. So I was just like, that's not a card I'm ever gonna spend $50 on. But now that it's super cheap, I think I might have to try jamming it more and see. I really like that it affects all permanents too, which is a nice little upside.
What if instead of this, there's something that doesn't double your mana, but it is cheaper, less aggressive in drawing the aggro, and it's kind of new.
If you name an edict, Krim, I swear to God.
No. Yeah, Will of the Obside. No. A Realm Reborn.
That card's good, though.
Realm Reborn is the 6 mana enchantment, also 6 mana from Final Fantasy. It's like 30 cents at best. And other permanents you control have add 1 mana of any color. Now, I get it doesn't double your mana, but it turns all your little critters, your things, your treasure, like you can use your treasures, clues and all that. And this is less offensive to me. Like if I see you play this, and as if I see you playing whatever, Mana Reflections or whatever, I'm more likely to kill you if you play Mana Reflections. I do not care if you play a Realm Reborn. This could go under the radar.
I don't know. So I agree that it's a big pick. I agree that it's a good choice as far as another version of like the make a bunch of mana card. I don't know if I agree that it's not going to draw hate though. I think if you drop this, my brain's going to be like, wow, if you're playing a Realm Reborn, you're going to like have something where you're making a ton of tokens and you're going to pop off and win the game. So I think I would hate on you about equally with either of the two cards. I don't think Realm Reborn would avoid the heat for me personally.
I think if Phil drops this in a Lonus deck and
I'm
he has
thinking
like
I'm
15
dead.
clues,
yeah.
I'm thinking like, well, that's it.
Yeah, GG.
That should be
GG.
it, yeah.
But I think this is a really good pick for our list though, because this card's
Yeah.
only 50 cents. And I remember what's the one that lets your tokens tap for mana?
Boot-
Jahira?
oh,
Is that the
Jahira.
legend?
Jahira, yeah.
That when that shows up and it's just like, oh my goodness, this card's so insane. And this kind of does it for all your permanents. So I feel like a Realm Reborn at 50 cents is also probably an underpriced bomb, at least in certain decks that can just like spam tokens everywhere. This card's going to be absurd.
Yeah, because like
Are you
mana
trying to get in
reflections.
Lonus, Phil?
Mana
No,
reflections
it's
coming
not a
down
good
makes you have to wait a turn, right? Because then you can
Yeah.
make
That's-
double mana.
Yeah.
In Phil's
you
Lonus
can-
deck, this just comes down, and now all those extra clues and
Yeah,
things that are laying around immediately
yeah,
make
yeah.
mana.
Start
6
doing something.
mana,
Yeah.
though.
No, the
Six
card's
mana's
Phil,
not
Phil is
hard.
such a glutton for good options. He has Urza, his Jahira. He's like, ugh, I don't want to pay more than 4 mana and not on a creature.
It's not a budget deck. It does remind me a bit of
Yeah.
Bootlegger's Stash. When it came out, people were like,
Oh,
oh,
I thought
my
that
God.
card was going to be good, and it didn't end up being good.
This card is so much
But
better.
this
though.
puts you mana positive in a lot of situations when you cast it. It just has a lot of setup, right? Like,
And then you're
Yeah.
tapped out? I don't know.
no, well, like let's say you get your Lonus, for example.
Yeah,
You
if you
pay
have
6 mana of-
if you have food,
Yeah.
food and clues.
yeah, if you have foods, if you're like the
That's what I
Samwise Sam deck,
Yeah.
that's like the Selesnya.
If you're
Yeah,
playing
where you're like
Academy
Rocco.
Manufacturer, this is probably
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
in your deck.
Yes, yes, that's correct.
Anyway, everyone, I believe
Should we
that
do it?
those are our undercosted bombs for Commander. Honestly, our lists were super long. There's so many good undercosted bombs, but let us know what you think. Which of our selections did you like? Do you have a favorite undercosted bomb that we should be playing more? Let us know in the comments, and we'll be back next week to talk even more Commander. So until then, have an amazing week, everyone, and this is the crew signing out.